Hello everyone. Now, this is a video I probably should have done a few weeks ago, but I had other videos planned out, plus I kind of took a break last week, so whatever, better late than never. But I wanted to talk about video games, like ones that I'd like to see be rebooted and remastered. What made me want to talk about this was just, I've been seeing quite a few of these lately, well, what really stood out to me was Ninja Warriors, which, let me get back to that in a moment. Some time ago, Natsumi remastered the classic game Wild Guns. I have it for the Switch. I remember playing the original on the Super Nintendo, and I have the Switch version, the remastered version. Now, another game that they had developed for the Super Nintendo was Ninja Warriors, which originally it was an arcade game by Taito, or Taito, whatever, however the hell you want to say it. And then Natsume, developed the SNES version of the game. And now Taito is actually bringing the game back. They're remastering it, and I'm really excited for it. One thing that's going to be great is that that game, Ninja Warriors on the Super Nintendo, I never played the arcade one, but the Super Nintendo game, it's probably like one of the best beat-em-ups on the system. The only real drawback is that it was only for one player, and that's one of the great things with this new game, this remaster, is that it's going to be for 2 players, plus there's 2 new playable characters, bringing a total of 5. But these are some games that I would love to see be remastered, or even rebooted. Like if they remade one of the old games, or if they just decided to reboot the series and redo the games or something. Either one would be good. But while we're on the subject of Natsume, the Pocky and Rocky games, which this is actually a reproduction card, because the real thing is that games are expensive as hell. But, yeah, I'd love to see them reboot these games. Or even if they just made, a collection, because I know there was 2 for the Super Nintendo, there was 1 for Game Boy Advance, and I think there were others for other systems, but they were never released outside of Japan, so that would be great to see if they did, remastered these games and added, more characters, or if they just did, a collection or something. Either way, I would love to see that, because I also have this on my SNES Classic Edition. And when I was playing it one day, and I was like, there's, at least none that I've heard of, there's really no other games like this type of, overhead shooter thing where you have, partners. And, yeah. Well, maybe there is, but just probably not as good, in my opinion, or whatever. Now, this one I've talked about countless times on this channel, but hey, I'll say it again. Legend of Dragoon. I'd love to see an HD remaster of this game because, well, the game, it has a great story, it's got good music, and the battle system is just so unique. And, like I said, I'd just love to see but the graphics really haven't aged well for this game, so like I said, I've said it countless times, but I'll say it again. And other people have been saying the same thing, so hey, let's just keep spreading the word, and you never know. This one might be a bit of a stretch, but it's the Vandal Hearts games, which this was made by Konami, and Konami is, well, let's be honest, they're a shell of what they once were. They're not the great company that we all grew up with, but Super Bomberman R. Maybe it's just because I grew up, I love playing the Bomberman games, I love the Bomberman games, but I liked that game, and the new Contra, I'm willing to give that a chance, because at least they're doing something with it, so it's maybe, Konami's getting a tad better, but I still don't think they'll be as great as they once were, but nevertheless, I'd love to see the Vandal Hearts games remastered, because, again, the second one, it's alright, it's not as good as the first one. One good thing about this game is the music is really good. It's almost like Conan, not the comedian, the barbarian. But this one, the story's a little more complicated, and the battle system is very different. It's kind of hard to explain. One thing that's kind of cool is that you make the characters kind of how you want. If you say, alright, I'm going to make this guy a swordsman, and so then it's you buy armor and then a sword and a shield, and you can literally see these weapons and armor on the character. Or if you're I'm going to make this character a mage, so I'm going to give them robes and a staff. And, again, you can see the items on the character. This one, the original, it's more um, Final Fantasy Tactics, where you have like the different classes and everything. But again, some of the graphics in this, like the blood and some of the movement and stuff, is very dated. But it's got a great soundtrack. The story is so deep and compelling, and it just never gets old. I absolutely love this game. The plot, without giving any spoilers away, the plot of this game. Let me put it this way: there's two main villains, so to speak. It's Hellspites and Dolph, who technically works for Hellspites, but he's really like plotting against him. So think of it like Final Fantasy VI. You have Gestalt, Emperor Gestalt, and Kefka. Look at it that way. If you played that game, you know what I'm talking about. So basically, Hellspites is like Gestalt, or I think I'm saying his name right. And then Dolph is basically like Kefka. That's one way of putting it. But I would love to see these games came back, or even if just somebody like, because we've seen like people leave Konami and make their own games. Like look at the Bloodstained games, which are basically like the spiritual successor to Castlevania. So maybe if I don't know, maybe we could get a spiritual successor to the Handle House game or something. That's something I would love to see. We've also seen a resurgence of platformer characters. Like, Bubsy just showed up. I don't know. I kind of always liked Bubsy. I don't know why. I still haven't played the new games. But, we've seen him come back. There's a new Earthworm Jim game in development. I'm real excited for that. Battletoads are back, which I'll admit the style is... I don't know. It's really weird. I'm not really crazy about it. But as long as the gameplay is solid, that's all I care about. I'm still willing to give that game a chance, and I'm just glad the Toads are back. But that's another example. It's like we got all these retro characters being dug up. So there's platformers and stuff. Two that I wouldn't mind seeing coming back are Sparkster, which was like this. He had two games that, to my knowledge. There was Sparkster for the Super Nintendo, and Rocket Knight Adventures for the Sega Genesis. Which again, these are Konami games, but whatever. It would be nice to see them come back. And another one I wouldn't mind seeing coming back is Booger Man, because that was like the 90s was like the gross out era. And that's who Booger Man was. He was just like one of those gross out characters, kind of like Earthworm Jim, but a little more disgusting. I don't know. That was a pretty fun game though. It's a pretty good, decent platformer for the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. So I wouldn't mind seeing them come back. Yeah, I don't physically own those games. That's why I'm not showing them. But yeah, the next one I do own. I'd love to see a resurgence of the Rampage games. God, I remember the original for the arcade. I remember like playing the NES one. And then there was Rampage World Tour and Universal Tour and Through Time. That one was pretty good. This was probably one of the best though. It's for 4 players, and it has like more of a 3D environment somewhat, but awesome game. It's so weird we haven't seen one of these games in years, yet randomly there was a Rampage movie, which I still haven't seen. I probably will eventually. I just haven't gotten around to it. But yeah, I'd love to see these games be rebooted or remastered. Like just redo the make a new game, or like reboot the series or whatever. Now this next one, I know Bethesda's been kind of like, people aren't too thrilled with them right now and stuff, but nevertheless, with them rebooting the Doom and Wolfenstein games, you know what else I think they should reboot? The Quake games. These games were so good, like the deathmatch and everything was just awesome. I don't remember. The story is pretty good too. Like it's very interesting. It's kind of hard to explain, but I haven't played this in forever. But yeah, that would be great to see. And maybe they will, because I think I read somewhere about it like way back then, or maybe it was just a rumor or something that Bethesda was going to be rebooting the series, which I honestly think they should. Like, I don't see why not. If you're going to do Wolfenstein and Doom, hey, do Quake too. Now, last but not least, FZero. God, how long has it been since we've seen a new FZero game? It's been almost 15 years. I think the last one was in 2005, but I'm not positive. But yeah, so I'd love to see a new F-Zero game. I mean, hell, we have some of the levels in like Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe, so maybe it could breathe a little bit of life left into the franchise, and you never know. I mean, it's been so long since Nintendo's done an F-Zero game, but think about when they made a Pilot Wings game for the 3DS. How long has it been since we saw a Pilot Wings game? You know, and all of a sudden they just brought that back. Why not just suddenly bring back F-Zero? You know, and they could do like a reboot. I think would probably be a good idea, or like start with a remaster on one of the old games and then turn it into like a reboot, the series. Because I feel like that's kind of what they're trying to do with Star Fox. Like I feel like that's what Star Fox Zero for the Wii U is one of those games you either love or hate, but I feel like what they were trying to do is reboot the series. So, if I'm right about that, they're rebooting Star Fox series, and maybe we'll see a new one, like a sequel to Zero or something. Hell, do the same thing with F-Zero, but that's just some of the ones I'd love to see. So, is there any games you guys would like to see remastered or rebooted? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.